The first youth homeless services were developed 40 years ago in London, when the Centrepoint charity took over a church in Soho to shelter young people who came from outside London. An advice service called Girls Alone in London was set up for homeless young women. But as youth unemployment grew in the 1980s, more and more young homeless people were from London itself. By the early 1990s, most London youth hostels were housing local young people forced to leave their family homes or those from local authority care. Centrepoint and YMCAs increased their bed spaces for homeless youth, and the first foyers providing education and training with accommodation were built. In other large cities and in rural areas, voluntary organisations adapted buildings or partnered with local housing associations to develop supported accommodation. By the late 1990s, they were also housing young refugees. In 2007, there were 75,000 young homeless in the UK. 32,000 lived in supported accommodation, and 43,000 were registered and accepted by their local authority. These numbers do not include hidden homeless. Many agencies are trying to stop the flow of young people into homelessness.
Life is a process, and from education to homelessness to family life, everything's linked up. The deterioration of one kind of element could just break down family life and your education, and that's how it works as a process. So you can't just attack one area and expect the other areas just to disappear or clear up themselves.
Safe in the City was a good practice model of early intervention to prevent youth homelessness, and it worked to bring together local agencies, non-governmental agencies or third sector or small charities in local boroughs, and it brought together those local agencies and linked them with statutory agencies like local authorities. And these agencies were brought together in a holistic way to work with young people. Sometimes in shop fronts, the young person would come to one agency and those services would be all together. They didn't have to go to different places to get the services that they needed. And the agencies would look at things like personal development of the young person, things like anger management or work on some self-esteem issues. It also worked on training and education for young people. And finally it looked at family mediation, and that included working with the family as a whole with the young person, but also parents groups, support groups. An excellent model, and it worked with 8 London boroughs. The young people that came into the Safe in the City programme were young people between the ages of 13 and 18, and they were young people that were still living at home with their families and would have 2 or 3 of the 5 risk factors that Safe in the City identified. And those risk factors were family conflict, family disruption in terms of many moves, family poverty, school exclusion, and young runaways, young people who are running away from home.
My life, yeah, I'm saying it, is like a jigsaw piece. I don't know about anybody else's. All messed up, and at the moment I'm just starting to pick up the pieces and put them back together.
There was a lot of young parents basically, and they were bringing up kids basically, and they were still kids themselves.
You go to your parents for a bit of like help. You feel like it goes from one ear and out the other. But when it does come to the crunch, nothing happens.
The Safe in the City family mediation model is continued by DePaul UK in 4 London boroughs. Reconnect project manager Amy Camara works with young people in schools before they have to leave home.
We always meet the young person first because it's a service led by young people. So it is important that the young person sees us as non-judgmental and impartial.
That's where it all started, when I got kicked out of school and I started hanging about with the wrong people. And if you're just walking about on the street and you're cold and that, then you feel you want to be back in your bed. Everything I do has got an impact, you get me, like, not just on me but on my sisters, you get me, and on my brother. Like, my brother's following in my footsteps because now he's been kicked out of school.
We assess their need and find out where the difficulties are on a one-to-one before we meet the second party, the significant other, and we go through the same process. And then eventually, once we get all the information from both parties and it feels that it is balanced, that there is no one party bringing up more issue than the other, we meet them both face to face, and we only bring up issues that would have been discussed on the one-to-one sessions. Culture is a big thing, so it quite often comes where parents trying to implement their rules based on their upbringing.
Being a parent, it's a hard job, really. If you pressure them too much, you'll probably end up losing them. Some kids, they run away.
From the moment they get a no, for whatever the reason, because you came in late last night, that's when you have all the attitude, and that's what triggers off everything else.
That little bit more encouragement from your mum and dad will make you feel so much more appreciated that they actually do care for you.
Birmingham is a multi-ethnic city of 1 million people. St Basil's, founded in this church 35 years ago, provides a holistic service to prevent youth homelessness. St Basil's is principally funded by Birmingham City Council, and referrals come from social services, youth offending teams, parents, carers, and young people themselves.
St Basil's provides a range of prevention services for young people. Our family mediation service works with young people from the age of 13 to 25, focused on conflict resolution. Our housing advice and housing option service are provided in the city centre as well as in the local communities. First, we give the young person a voice. Secondly, we ensure that they focus on achieving a positive outcome. And thirdly, we focus on preventing youth homelessness, reducing the risk of homelessness by ensuring that young people, either remain in the family home if safe to do so, or plan their move in a safe way. Our role is to find out what is the root cause of the conflict, and the issues range from boundaries at home, issues at school, peer pressure, issues changes within the family. There's a variety of issues that young people face that lead them to feel that they haven't got a voice.
In this post there are a lot of mental health difficulties that impact on family conflict. So for example, with parents and with young people, there are a lot of severe and enduring difficulties. By the time I get referrals, generally it's a very complex case. So you would get young people and parents suffering with long-term depression, anxiety, self-esteem issues, which are also impacted on by drug and alcohol abuse. And that impacts on conflict because people are just much more tired, they're much more frustrated, they're finding life very difficult. Generally, we have separate one-to-one sessions if a young person is homeless or is at risk of being homeless. And we also have sessions, one-to-one sessions with the parents separately. And it enables people to have a space to be able to think about what's happened. They can stand back and say, actually, well, it's gone too far. And very often it doesn't get to the process of mediation.
The schools we work in are within inner London boroughs. The age group is 11 to 18 years old. The type of areas we focus on are ones in lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So the young people will be often coming in from local estates, and with that they experience not only family conflicts but conflicts within their community. So for example, they might be involved in local gangs. Other issues they might face or problems would be they can't speak English as a first language. There'll be cultural problems between the peers themselves, such as either bullying or racism is quite a big thing between the cultural groups as well. Sessions that we do in the school are on what is homelessness and the causes, and with that we do conflict resolution skills, so we give them something concrete to learn about and take away with them. So the resolution isn't just about family conflicts, it's also about peer conflicts, which would include skills like listening skills, managing your anger a little bit better, communication blockers and things like that. At the end of the session, we leave an open forum really for young people to self-refer should they wish to.
In 4 London boroughs, DePaul UK offers personal development sessions in schools.
We also run a few workshops in the anger management and conflict resolution, and recently started running also another workshop with young people around healthy relationship and gang culture, and run some classes to support parents in order for them to be able to have a better relationship with their children.
St Basil's in Birmingham has a different approach to work in schools, offering workshops on the realities of being homeless.
A typical session is we go into the classrooms, introduce ourselves, and then we ask them what their perception of homeless people is, and it's generally, you know, scruffy old people sat in a corner drinking out of a whiskey bottle. We then start an interactive session which builds a picture up of a typical 16-year-old person living at home, hobbies, clothes, that kind of thing. And then we kind of look at things that they have in their life, and if those were removed, how would that affect them? And obviously, you know, it's going to affect their emotional and social needs if they didn't have all their belongings around them. We look at rooms in the house, bedroom, living room, bathroom. If they didn't have all their bits and pieces in there, then it's going to affect them. And then obviously their perception of homelessness changes, because they then realise that anybody at any age can become homeless, not just some old person in a corner. We use young people within St Basil's and train them up for 12 weeks, and we call them peer educators.
I came into St Basil's at the age of 17 after leaving foster care. I also was able to do voluntary work through St Basil's, which led me onto a 12-week training programme, which enabled me to become a peer educator. I go out to schools with Michelle and do sessions for young people around homelessness. Also, I help to do written work and build a character up with Michelle about a young person that could be facing homelessness. Also, at the end of the session, I get to do a 10-minute talk on my own experiences around homelessness. After I've spoke to the young people about my experiences, they are quite shocked to realise that I once was a homeless person myself.
We ask them what's the best age to leave home, and by the end of the session that has risen probably by about 5 years. And we know that we've made them appreciate what they have at home and not to take things for granted. We ask them if they have a cooked meal and have the washing done, and all of them say that they do.
After working as a peer educator, I applied to become a peer mentor. I had to do a 12-week training programme to become a peer mentor, which enables me to go out to schools and work one-to-one with young people aged 12 to 16.
In rural areas, there are smaller agencies, like SHYPP, which has 33 bed spaces in 3 foyers across Herefordshire. SHYPP works in schools to help prevent youth homelessness and also uses peer mentors.
I needed somewhere to live, and my friends told me about SHYPP and told me what they did, and I got in contact with them and they helped me find a place to live. I'd probably be living in a cardboard box somewhere. Made me wanted to start working with young people, and I figured the best way to do that is to start volunteering and build up experience. All the mentors that they have are volunteered, and they work with from really young children who are going to be expelled from school, having trouble, to people that are like young offenders, people that have been in prison for less than a year.
Respite accommodation gives a young person a break from their family, or temporary shelter while finding a more permanent place to stay. Night Stop offers temporary emergency accommodation through volunteer hosts. Today there are 48 local Night Stop services run by Barnardo's, YMCA's and other charities, coordinated by DePaul UK. Each year, 700 hosts offer 6,000 bed nights.
A young person who might have nowhere to go that night Our statistics tell us most of the time it's due to family breakdown. They generally come to us through other agencies, so it might be somewhere they know about, like the local council, a local agency such as Connections that works with young people. When they're there, if the worker there thinks they're suitable for Night Stop, they'll then do a risk assessment and suggest as well, because it's very much about the young person, Night Stop, suggest that they might want to stay on the Night Stop service.
Well, since I became a Night Stop host in August, I've probably had about 12 or 13 young girls staying with me, and you never really know what to expect, and often they're extremely nervous about knocking on a stranger's front door. So you have to be very flexible and learn to play it by ear, depending on what signs you get from the young person when they arrive. When they arrive, I always offer the young person a meal, a drink, I show them to their room, I offer them the opportunity to wash their clothes if they'd like. Sometimes we sit and chat, sometimes we watch TV. Not everybody wants to eat, but I certainly always keep a stock of pizzas in the freezer because none of the girls that have ever stayed with me have refused pizza.
Hosts are recruited by the local Night Stop services by any means possible. They come from all different backgrounds. They're absolutely remarkable people who don't seem to think they're doing anything out of the ordinary by opening up their home to this young person in need, and they often say they're the privileged ones for being able to do this.
Being a Night Stop host is one of the most rewarding and difficult and stressful things I think I've ever undertaken in my life, but I'm immensely proud of it, and you don't get a sense always that you've done your best or that you've really solved somebody's problems, but it's a tiny little step to helping somebody get their life sorted, and that's really, really special to me.
It's very much locally whatever the need is, so it responds at a local level. So in some areas, because the local authorities need Night Stop, not just for one night, but a couple of weeks, so it's more a crash pad, so they'll stay with the same host and it's still volunteers for up to 6 to 8 weeks. It's then developed into a lot of Night Stops also run supported lodgings, which is, again, staying with a household. The host with that will get a payment because it's up to 2 years and there's more support. So they'll teach the young person skills for independent living, such as budgeting, cooking, everything that you might need if you had your own household. In some areas, they're looking at setting up Night Stops where young mums with babies can stay for a couple of nights. So it might be while they're sorting out other accommodation for them.
Here at St Basil's we provide a time out project which is based on the national model of the crash pads. Our focus is to assist young people who present in crisis housing need as a result of family conflict, an opportunity to have time away from the family home, a period of 2 weeks, to not only learn life skills and independent living skills, but also to engage in mediation with their parent or carer, which is very much focused on them returning home in a planned and safe way. After the 2 weeks of stay with us, ultimately our aim is for the young person to return home, but if not, it's to ensure that they've thought through the process of planning your move out of the family home.
I work as the family mediator at the Time Out Accommodation Service, which is a short-term homelessness prevention service for 16 and 17-year-olds who are offered a stay of up to 3 months, where they work with myself as a family mediator and are offered support by key workers who are staffing 24 hours a day. Once a young person moves into the hostel, my goal as mediator is to establish rapport with the young person and their parent as soon as possible so we can start identifying the core issues causing conflict at home. Over their 3-month stay, we meet one-on-one and aim to head towards joint sessions as soon as possible. At the end of the 3-month period, when a young person is able to move home, it's important to offer follow-up support to the young person and their parents to continue their rebuilding of relationships. It's about giving them tools to deal with conflict in the future.
Night Stop and crash pads are services for the over 16s, but there is a gap for the under 16s. Safe at Last in South Yorkshire will accommodate young people under the age of 16.
On most nights I'd get over here. I'd leave at like 11:15, I'd get over here for about 11, and then I'd start pitching up, and by the time I've set everything up it'd be 12:15, because there was a period like Well, I was phoning my sister every day, and every day like clockwork it was 11:45 when I'd ring her. And then I'd spend half hour on the phone to her, then I'd go to sleep.
Supported accommodation is mainly provided by the voluntary sector for all young people who can't return home.
We provide 2 accommodation pathway services, one for the youth offending, which is very much focused on planning a young person's move from custody, also preventing repeat offending as a result of homelessness, and also we provide a care leaving service, which is once again planning a young person's move out of care.
Some local authorities provide their own supported accommodation, as in the London Borough of Camden's Pathways programme for young people with no parental home.
First off, you stay in an assessment centre for around 6 months, like this one for young women. It's the first stop along the pathway and you'll get as much support as you need. You may not get much help with your singing.
Participate!
There are about 20 young women who share the assessment centre. Most of them will have suffered abuse or rejection by other people, including their families. So this is a place of safety, as well as a good place to learn about independence.
It just makes us feel good about ourselves and, you know, just gives us like a boost.
We know what works. We know that either one agency or a cluster of agencies can come together to provide a holistic service that responds to young people's differing needs. We know early intervention can prevent youth homelessness, or it can help young people leave home safely.